Committee. And I'm sure it'll be a productive meeting. It'll be lively, but most of all, I'm sure it will be positive. And we'll all embark in a good frame of mind and a positive frame of mind. Andrew, good afternoon again. Could you advise me of any apologies?
Vina, I've not been notified of any apologies.
Is anyone present no different? Not quite like a marriage ceremony, I hasten to add, or object? No, well, we'll take that as thing. Could I have any declarations of interest before we proceed? Noted, Councillor Cameron. Colin?
So members, I'm afraid I need to ask members to actually verbalise their declarations for the purposes of anyone watching the meeting.
Colin?
So
Alan, Councillor McPake here. I'm going to declare an interest item 4 and item 5 as I was a substitute at the City Deal Leaders Board in December.
Noted, Michael. Thank you.
will you be leaving the meeting, Councillor McPake?
Yes, Andrew, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Alan, I'll need to declare an interest in items 8, 9 and 11. 8 and 9 due to my membership of the Business Gateway Advisory Group, although with item 8 I do not believe I need to leave the meeting, and item 11 it's because of my membership of the SPT, and it's not clear in the papers whether that is the active travel scheme is to do with the SPT's active travel scheme. Again, with item 11, as it's an advisory paper, I do not believe I should need to leave the meeting. Item 8, I would ask to be put. Item 9, sorry, I would ask to be put in the lobby.
Noted, Colin. Your comments are noted, and thank you. Does anyone else have anything to declare?
Thanks, Convener. Just item 4 and 5 as a substitute member of the City Deal. But it doesn't stop me from taking part, so I wasn't part of the meetings in last year.
Andrew?
Chair, if I can come back in, it's Michael, Councillor McPake. On item 11, the same as Colin, I don't think it precludes us from taking part in the meeting all the same. Thank you.
Noted, Michael. Andrew, I'm the same as Colin, primarily items 8 and 9, but however, only with item 9, I'll not take part as such. Items 4 and 5, I do occasionally substitute for the leader, but however, I haven't been there for several months, so I don't think it'll preclude me, as we discussed previously. Is anybody any further comment at this juncture before we go into the business? No. Right, colleagues, with your indulgence, I'm going to vary the agenda slightly. We're going to get a short film. I think it'll be a really good film, very entertaining, a very positive film, and some of you may wish to nominate it for a BAFTA award after you've seen it. And Yvonne, could you do initial preamble before we screen?
Thank you, Councillor Graham, and thank you, everyone. So this week we've launched the Council's Invest campaign. So this is aimed at showcasing North Lanarkshire as a place for business and a place for inward investment. We've launched a social media campaign that's highly focused out with Scotland, but also more localised communications that you might have seen on the Council's social media channels. So we've created a website which can be found at www.investinnorthlanarkshire.co.uk, and that's supported by 3 videos, a longer video that I'm going to try and show you just now if technology allows me, and 2 shorter, more promotional videos. So I will share the video just now.
North Lanarkshire is investing in ambition. We're creating a better place for people to live and work, and for businesses to grow.
Is that working?
We can certainly hear you, but as yet no visual. I can see it.
Okay, let me just try one more time. Apologies.
Apology not necessary. I know you're doing your best. Yvonne, we've got a picture on screen. Well, at least I have. But thank you.
North Lanarkshire is investing in ambition. We're
Yes, thank
creating
you.
a better place for people to live and work and for businesses to grow and succeed. Where employers have access to a strong employment market and a highly skilled workforce on their doorstep.
Being born and bred in Motherwell, I understand exactly how important the people of North Lanarkshire are to the success of this business.
North Lanarkshire is where the Albert Bartlett story started and continues to this day.
We've developed a strong and supportive team spirit in the company and also formed very strong relationships with local suppliers.
North Lanarkshire has provided Brewdog with readily available workforce.
And the high calibre of talent that we can access in the local area is absolutely vital.
We are an area of technology and innovation with support for disruptive companies in emerging fields, investing in modern facilities to meet the demands of an ever-changing world.
We help architects and designers transfer daylight to the very heart of buildings.
We provide flexible and modular access to labs, to expensive bits of scientific equipment. We run startup programs to help companies get started, companies tackling big environmental challenges through life sciences solutions.
We have a long tradition of medical research, scientific research. These facilities are not available anywhere else in the UK.
We've introduced ozone technology, saving energy, saving water, reducing our use of chemicals. Our motto is fashion without footprint.
Businesses in North Lanarkshire are perfectly placed to access the rest of Scotland, the UK, Europe and beyond, with fantastic connectivity and infrastructure.
Geographically, North Lanarkshire is the hub of Scotland.
North Lanarkshire's location and infrastructure are critical to our operations.
We're 20 minutes away from Glasgow, 35 minutes away from Edinburgh.
We have an enviable road, rail and air infrastructure which allows us to run our business on a global basis.
The investment that's been made in North Lanarkshire in infrastructure has been absolutely vital to the success of this business.
We're investing over £190 million in building new roads and upgrading existing infrastructure. We are changing the landscape to meet the challenges the future holds, tearing down the old and building a new, modern North Lanarkshire.
We're proud to be a part of the change in North Lanarkshire.
And we look forward with anticipation as key projects are designed and developed.
It's a great place to be. That's why we're here in North Lanarkshire.
Invest in people.
Invest in technology.
Invest in innovation.
Invest in connectivity.
Invest in change.
Invest in the future. Invest in North Lanarkshire.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed that.
Does anyone have any comments before we move on to the business proper? No, thank you. I'll take your silence. It means everybody's quite happy with what they've seen. And I'm sure it'll do us a lot of good in the days and months to come. Can I ask, I'll move on swiftly to item 2. And Pamela, I take it you'll be taking us through the salient points.
Yeah, just briefly, convener, thank you.
Thank you.
So the committee will obviously be very familiar now with the Economic Regeneration Delivery Plan, as we provide regular updates to this committee in terms of the range of activity that's involved. This report is seeking approval for the new action plan to progress the work for 22-23, and also for the first time we're also seeking approval for the proposed performance framework that would help us monitor progress against the priorities of the RDP, and also the impact of some of the activity within the RDP, which is obviously a bit more difficult to sort of measure the impact, given there's a whole range of factors involved. So the performance framework, as members will see, is at different levels. So some of it is about indicators at a kind of wider national level, that we have some influence over, but at the end of the day, there's lots of kind of wider influences, but it gives us a health check in terms of where we sit and where North Lanarkshire's economy is sitting. And then there's also more localised indicators that are more specifically related to council and public sector investment. So just to clarify, that we are seeking approval at this committee for the framework itself. In terms of the reporting on the content of the framework and the indicators and performance itself, we would propose that we would do that as part of the end of year performance report, which will cover the current year's 21-22 action plan and the outcomes attached to that, and that would link to the update of the performance framework. So members will see in the performance framework there's clearly some areas, some figures that are not populated, but that will be updated for the next committee. So clearly, hopefully members will agree that across all of the themes of the ERDP, that there's been significant activity and significant progress, and the action plan for 22-23 hopefully gives a flavour for the priorities for the year ahead, particularly related to our town centre programmes and how we're progressing projects across all of the town centres to support the delivery of our town visions, and also across the other themes of the ERDP. As I say, that and a number of reports to this committee obviously highlight some of the work and progress that we're making in terms of those themes as well. So I'm happy to take any questions, convener, and David Greer I think is also on the call, who could answer questions if I'm not able. Thank you.
Alan, you're on mute.
Just Councillor Damasio, Paul. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for the report, Pamela. I'd like to warmly welcome the report and all the work that officers, all the hard work the officers have put into, you know, all the projects detailed within it, and look forward to well, I'm delighted to have seen all the projects detailed that have already came off, and look forward to seeing a continuation of that and all the other projects being progressed. Obviously, warmly welcome obviously the funding that the North Lanarkshire Council has received, particularly the housing, the funding that we've received in the last few years for the housing projects, which is I think it's amounted up to around about 1,100 houses so far, over 100 million from the Scottish Government, which is fantastic news. Welcome the place-based investment, which is almost 3 million, and the numerous tens of millions of extra funding that North Lanarkshire has received in recent years for many projects across the council. But I've got a question, so obviously welcome the report, and welcome all the hard work that's ongoing. Just got a wee question in relation to the Dykehead Road project that kind of tweaked my interest. I was curious as to how that was the it was a trial program of works, trial project in the housing at Dykehead Road, whereby we were installing heat pumps and Powerwall battery storage. I was just looking for a wee update on that project. Most of our projects I'm fairly up to date with, but I was quite curious on that one. I know it's a housing topic.
Paul, thank you for your positive comments, and as I said to you before numerous times, I welcome funding we get from either end of Edinburgh or London. It's immaterial. It's taxpayers' money, and we're spending it productively. And my colleague Heather Brand-McVeigh is doing an excellent job in the housing and bringing all this to fruition, as I'm sure you would acknowledge. However, as regards your question, Pamela, are you in a position to answer, or is David?
Yeah, I'll try. In terms of the eco homes as part of the wider development at Dykehead Road, yeah, and this is obviously, we're already in the new build have high levels of energy efficiency in terms of the fabric first approach and PV, etc. But clearly, as we all know, that the standards are continuing to increase in terms of trying to move towards net zero carbon, which, as I say, although our homes are energy efficient, they're not yet net zero carbon. So this is we've got a couple of different sort of pilot projects to try and test out the various technologies to sort of evaluate what basically what's going to work the best, because again, as members probably know, from I think it's 2024 we won't be able to install gas boilers in new build. So we're probably leaning towards the air source heat pump solution. But this, as you say, this this pilot is also looking at the combination of that with the battery storage facility as well. However, the cost of all of that is quite, the upfront cost, the capital cost is quite significant. So we have to, I suppose, evaluate what the cost of installing all the technology is. But we're particularly interested in terms of the running costs, because air source heat pumps are not cheaper to run than traditional gas boilers. So we want to look at how we can make sure that we keep the energy costs for tenants down as low as possible. So the homes aren't completed yet, Councillor, and I think certainly we will be providing further updates through Housing and Regeneration Committee, and we will circulate that wider to elected members as well, just for interest. But it's still early days in terms of that particular project.
Paul, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, and thank you for that, Pamela. Councillor McGowan, Agnes.
I'd like to thank you first of all for the very positive and really quite exciting report, Pamela. And page 12, got a couple of questions and just a couple of comments. And page 12, it mentions there was a smart homes pilot at Cairgreave Court. I think it's amazing how people can be supported now by technology. I'll maybe be needing it soon myself. So I would just like to know from that, what was involved in this pilot. Secondly, I'm absolutely delighted with the progress in Motherwell Station, and that will, support the town centre regeneration and Motherwell being a hub. So absolutely delighted, can't wait for that to be completed, and the work seems to be going on at pace at the moment. The £5 million park at Ravenscraig, a tremendous addition, but I've got a concern that it's been shut, a few times to be repaired. Is it, permanently fixed now? Have we ironed out these problems? My grandchildren have been disappointed a couple of times. Active travel to Strathclyde Park. Maybe I'll be able to stop going down the pavement when I go to cycle round Strathclyde Park. I hope these, are they actually going to be off-road routes to Strathclyde Park? Again, I don't like taking my grandchildren down main roads, and be absolutely delighted with routes to Strathclyde Park and the 10 kilometres of active travel routes. Tremendous addition to North Lanarkshire, and I hope this will continue at pace in other areas. So just a few wee questions and a few wee comments. Thanks, Pamela.
Agnes, thank you for your comments, questions, etc. Pamela, in your position to answer them, or would some today and some out with the meeting?
Yeah, I'll try my best. So that the smart home technology, again, similar to the eco standards, is about trying to sort of have proof of concepts in terms of what what we can do, what's possible, and obviously what what works best. So it is about, again, I think with the new build, we're trying to make sure that the homes are have access to the digital technology in terms of the cabling and everything that we're doing. But this is about then taking that to the next level in terms of how we can use technology in the home. So that's also about looking at in the future things like the sensors that we can use, maybe where it can help us diagnose issues or problems within the home. So things like the boilers. But this is, I think, and I need to get more detail, but I think particularly in Cairgreave Court, it's about looking at how we can sort of use the technology to link with sort of health as well, in terms of how we can help improve access in terms of the kind of health care as well that residents get. So it's really trying to sort of take it to the next level in terms of what we can provide to tenants, maybe as standard or bespoke to tenants' individual needs. that would tie in with the latest technology. So I don't probably have very much detail about the outcome of the pilot at Cairgreave Court, Councillor McGowan, so I'll certainly take a note to get an update about that to you, just with a wee bit more detail. In terms of the other questions or points, certainly at the park at Ravenscraig, I mean, I think, yeah, I'm sorry that your grandchildren were disappointed, but the issues have, I think, now been fixed. Lindsay can maybe confirm that. But so as far as I'm aware, there's it is fully open and operational. And if I maybe ask Lindsay to comment, if you can, on the question around the active travel links to Strathclyde Park. Lindsay, are you able to comment on that?
Yeah, with regard to the Ravenscraig Park, as far as I'm aware, that everything has been rectified, and what I'll do is I'll come back to you just to confirm that, Councillor McGowan. With regards to active travel at Strathclyde Park, I'll probably come back to you directly on that, just to make sure that there's a whole load of active travel projects going on at the moment, both in Ravenscraig, wider through linking Motherwell to Ravenscraig, and in Strathclyde Park. And what I'll do is I'll come back with kind of information around all the active travel that we're looking in, just to make sure that I get that right for you.
Thank you.
Agnes, you happy with that?
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Alan.
Thanks, Agnes. Councillor Kelly, Paul.
Thank you, Convener. I've got to say, I think the action plan is absolutely phenomenal in terms of the level of detail, in terms of how we go forward. It's, I think, without doubt, the most ambitious plan of any local authority in Scotland, if not the UK. And then the performance framework, I think, evidences that the work that's been done by this administration over the last 5 years, and huge credit to yourself, Convener, the Vice Convener, and all the staff that are involved. You know, there's no doubt we have the fastest growing economy probably in Scotland, and the most ambitious growth programme in Scotland, something that's really needed as we come out of the pandemic and people are looking for good quality jobs and opportunities. It's quite phenomenal to see the growth that's happening in North Lanarkshire and the opportunities to invest and come to North Lanarkshire. So huge credit to everyone involved in that. My question is just around the Braithurst Industrial Estate in my own ward in terms of the investment that's coming in there. Very much welcomed. It's just to get some information about when that programme will start. You can email it to me after the committee. There's no urgency. It's just to get that date of start. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul, for that. I'll speak to you about that as well. Pamela, do you want to say anything? Do you want to briefly comment?
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Kelly. I don't know if David could probably give a quick update on Braithurst, because it's definitely his baby. It's very close to his heart, and we were delighted, obviously, to get the funding for Braithurst. So, David, are you able to comment on that?
So, obviously, it's a wee bit more detail in a later committee report in regards to external funding update. But in essence, we were able to secure £1.8 million from the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund. So overall, it's a £3.4 million project, which will include the development of new incubator units, an upgrade and energy improvements to existing North Lanarkshire properties in the estate, a full improvement of the infrastructure in terms of roads, boundary treatments, frontage, and also lighting as well. So again, we're quite excited about this. We've already engaged through an NTP the existing architects and design team that we had in place to help us pull the bid together. So again, ultimately, we have to have the contract started before the 31st of March 2023. So we'd be hoping to do that well before then. But again, as always, you know, in terms of planning and taking stuff forward, there is always slippage. But I think we'd be hoping to start on site towards the end of this calendar year.
Thank you, David. Paul, hopefully that goes partway to answer your points. And as I say, I will speak to you later and give you an update, a couple of things I know about the estate. And however, thank you again very much for your kind words. The staff are simply the best. Now, please don't take that comment out of context. As I mentioned in the council chambers some years ago, and it was meant in the right gospel way. Please don't attach any significance to it, negative or otherwise. They are simply the best. They do a wonderful job. Thank you. Councillor McPake, Michael.
Thanks, Chair. Paul Kelly stole my thunder, to be honest. I was just going to say what a fantastic vision we've got here, what a fantastic programme of work we've got here. And I can't add any more to what Paul said, except to say, you know, the chair and the vice chair have done an extremely fantastic job here, and the whole team involved. But just on that, David, if you remember this time, about last springtime, I asked a question about Bank Street and Coatbridge, and I was reassured that work would start there. The contract was out, it would start there in September of 21. Still nothing's happened. David, can you maybe give us an update? I know it's just because the last question was asked as well. David, can you give us an update on that, please?
David.
Yeah, so in terms of Bank Street and Coatbridge, so we did start the demolition works on that, and it was out to contract for the new build. The actual price that came back in terms of the procurement was well and higher, much higher rather than we actually had budget for. So we're now currently looking at solutions to how we actually address that gap in terms of taking that forward, and that's what the hold up right now is. So it's budgetary.
David, could you then maybe look into your crystal ball and tell us when it'll start? Because it's the entrance to Coatbridge. It's it's very important that we get this tidied up as quickly as possible.
So it is. It's our new supply team that's now taking this forward. So I'll get in contact with our new supply team, and I'll try and get a programme across to yourself.
David, I could maybe just add to that in terms of where it's at the moment, Councillor. Hopefully we'll get a further update out to members, but we're basically looking at alternative options for the site. Because if you remember that the proposal was the facade or part facade retention, and that is a large part of the very high costs that came back. So we're looking at an alternative, basically a new build option, which would also bring the building slightly further away from the railway line, which is desirable for a number of reasons, not least in terms of the feasibility and the buildability, in terms of being able to build near the railway line. So we're discussing that with Historic Environment Scotland, because we need their approval. So I'm not sure we would be able to give you an exact timeline, because that process is still ongoing. But either way, we weren't in a position to accept the prices that came back for the original proposal. So I appreciate the frustration with the delay, but that's unfortunately the position that we're in. So. But we will get a further update out to members, because I know it's a very prominent site in Coatbridge. Thanks.
Michael, hopefully that gives you some reassurance.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you again for your kind comments for all. Thank you. Councillor Cameron, Colin.
Thank you, Convener. It's not an actual question, it's a request. When the report comes out regarding the new heating systems, the proposed heat pump systems that Pamela was talking about, if we could have something in it from the fire service, because she mentioned about battery capacity built into the houses, battery walls, and whilst I know there is safety margin built into these things, our constituents are well aware that there's and have concerns surrounding electric cars, let alone battery walls built into houses regarding fire safety, because there is an ongoing issue currently with batteries that go on fire getting put out by the fire brigade in the vehicles and then reigniting. So if we could have some sort of link up with the fire service when this proposed report comes out, that would be most helpful.
Thank you, Colin. It's a fair point you've made. I'm sure that it's noted by Pam, and will be responded accordingly. Thank you again. Councillor Beveridge, Alan.
Thanks, Convener. Quick question. Again, thanks for the report. Good report. Under 4.1 key actions, East Airdrie Link Road. It says here, target is to develop an outline business case for submission to the city deal. So presumably it's been this has been submitted and it's been approved. And just to clarify what that means, and also preferred route option for road selected, it will be early 2022. It's just to ask if there's any timescales when this preferred option will be on the cards. Thanks.
Alan, Lindsay, you in a position to respond?
Apologies, Councillor Graham, my sound went during that.
Perhaps, okay. No problem, Lindsay. Are you in a position to respond?
Sorry, I couldn't hear the question. That was the apologies. My sound's not very good today. I don't know why. If Councillor Beveridge could maybe repeat that, certainly.
No problem. Modern technology. Anyway, it says on 4.1, it's regarding East Airdrie Link Road. It says develop an outline business case for submission to the city deal. But I take it this has been approved, that there's not a problem with submission. But this is a go-ahead project, and it's just to confirm. It says preferred routes will be selected early 2022. When these routes will be coming in and when we'll get a definite route and starting time. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Beveridge. With regards to the first point, the East Airdrie Link Road is part of the Pan-Lanarkshire corridor. It's a strategic business case which we do have approval for. That was approved in 2015 and then a refresh in 2018. So we have strategic business case for that. We are working towards, and I think the next paper that I'll come on to actually covers that. We are coming on to the outline business case stage for the East Airdrie Link Road. There's quite a long way to go to get it to outline business case. We have brought forward the ground investigation works, and we're looking to move into stage 3, which follows stage 2, which does start to identify the preferred route. So we do have a preferred route, and we're just kind of closing down that stage in terms of working through the consultation that was carried out last year to make sure that we have fully considered that, and we take those comments into stage 3 during 22.
Thanks. Just a wee quick, Convener. So I take it then, as a preferred route will be getting published and very shortly. Then is that right?
Yeah, we're going to do a stage 2 consultation, which will kind of consult around the environmental report, which satisfies the strategic environmental appraisal side of things. And after that, and following that exercise, we will then publish that preferred route, and that preferred route will then be taken into stage 3, which is sort of detailed design and takes us through into planning and the outline business case stage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Colleagues, is there any other questions? Seen on the chat bar. We happy to approve the recommendations. Thank you. Can we move on to item 3, please? And Pamela or David, I believe you're taking this.
Yeah, I'll just introduce it, Convener, thanks. So the economic recovery plan, you'll be glad to know I'm clearly not going to go into a lot of detail. There's a lot of detail in the report, but the economic recovery plan update is just to give the members an update in terms of the range of activity that the council's been involved in over the past year in terms of supporting businesses and individuals to mitigate the impact or the economic impact of the pandemic. Members will remember that we took the economic recovery plan to committee back in February last year to highlight the range of actions and what we were going to do to try and support businesses and individuals. So hopefully members will agree that there's been a lot of hard work across a range of services and other partners to help hopefully businesses to survive the crisis, and also to support businesses to invest and grow in North Lanarkshire and therefore create further employment opportunities, and also through the work of Paul Kane and the employability teams in terms of the support that have been provided to individuals to help them access employment opportunities. So the proposal is that we would not produce another economic recovery plan, and the intention is that the work that's outlined within the report is taken forward through the ERDP that we've just spoken about, and also through the work of the Workforce for the Future strategy, which obviously particularly covers how we support individuals and how we work with young people as well to create opportunities and improve skills. So I say that just we're happy to answer any questions, but it's just to get the committee's approval that's how we would take this work forward in the future. Thanks.
Councillor Brian McVeigh, Heather.
Thank you very much, Convener. I noticed in the chat bar PM appeared. My apologies. I have no idea how that happened, but
I'm trying to translate there. But
isn't technology just wonderful that it puts these things in? I think I should acknowledge that a declaration that at 2.6.1 the Supplier Development Programme is referenced, and I am chair of that board and representative for North Lanarkshire Council. But that wasn't the point I was wanting to make, Convener. I just want to thank yourself and the services that have been involved in developing this report. It's dynamic and it's far-reaching. And while it is to some degree sad that this will be the last time we'll see a report like this, I think it is right that it falls into the main body of our everyday work, because the detail that's within this report is important, because it was about business survival, and in many cases how businesses diversified and how businesses are now thriving. For some businesses, they weren't as fortunate as that. And I thank the efforts of the North Lanarkshire Council staff who are supporting all of the small and medium enterprises, and indeed large ones, to diversify their work to continue to survive and thrive in North Lanarkshire. But I think one of the elements that is worth highlighting is about the individuals that have been supported, the people who are entering work, sustaining work. The last 2 years could have been a period where pause was hit and progress couldn't have been made. But what we've demonstrated is effort continued, work continued, and personal and professional development took place for many people during this. And the council played an immense role within that. And I just want to pay credit in particular. Everybody deserves credit, but I want to pay credit to Yvonne Weir and our team, who have been delivering a whole raft of business supports to our local business community, quite often hearing what they're going to be supporting and then the next day receiving inquiries about it when actually the criteria has not been there. So I thank them and the allies across North Lanarkshire Council who have been drafted in to provide the support to that, because that has been vital in ensuring business survival, diversification, and indeed the thriving of business in North Lanarkshire. And that, the top of your committee today, Convener, you showed the video, and I'm delighted that North Lanarkshire Council has demonstrated that North Lanarkshire is open for business. It's great to see, and long may that continue. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words, Heather. It's much appreciated. I'm sure the staff will acknowledge those kind words as well. Thank you. Councillor Damasio, Paul.
Thank you. Very good report once again, and I'm content with the proposal in terms of the reporting going forward. But yeah, again, I would just like to obviously welcome the funding that was received and the work that officers have put in relation to helping our businesses in North Lanarkshire and helping individuals back into work, obviously with the targeted schemes, assisting those at risk of poverty in particular, and young people in relation to getting people back into work. We've made progress there. It's clear. There's been a lot of work going on in that area. It's clear that obviously we've got more to do as we come out of the pandemic. So I just would like to thank officers for all the work they've done there, and look forward to them continuing that and North Lanarkshire thriving. Thank you.
Thank you for your very kind comments, Paul. It's appreciated. Some of you may have heard me say these words before, but I think they're always worth repeating. In the words of President Biden, fear never builds a future, but hope does. And we are certainly giving people hope. We're giving them a new deal. We're giving them a new opportunity to get to new horizons and to better everybody. Thank you. Are we happy to accept the recommendations? Yes. Thank you. Can we move on to item 4, please? And Lindsay, I believe you'll be on stage. And if you could take us through the salient points, it would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham, and afternoon, everyone. So the City Deal update report really is the regular report that comes to committee, and it provides an update across the 5 remaining projects within the City Deal programme. But importantly today, we are asking committee to approve delegated authority to the Chief Executive to approve the submission of the Orchard Farm roundabout OBC to the Glasgow City Region Cabinet in June of this year. And again, if required and subject to the approval of that OBC, we are looking for further delegated approval to the Chief Executive to agree the submission of the full business case for that particular project. And this has really been asked at this time to maintain programme, given the fact that we don't have an Enterprise and Growth Committee until August. So as I say, it's allow us to kind of maintain programme and build and keep the momentum going on that particular project. In terms of the report itself, as I say, it covers the 5 remaining projects within the City Deal programme. It's quite lengthy. It does show positive progress, and I think it really shows, in light of the Invest in North Lanarkshire video, how City Deal investment is supporting North Lanarkshire and the city region. So I just want to take the opportunity really to highlight a couple of projects in particular. So I just to draw your attention to section 2.1, which is the Motherboard Town Centre Transport Initiative, and I welcome Councillor McGowan's comments around the station investment and then the investment in Muir Street. So following the approval in November, Balfour Beatty were appointed to deliver the works at Muir Street. They started on site on the 10th of January as planned, and in progress is going well, as Councillor McGowan noted. The first phase that they're working on at the moment concentrates on the new access route to the station, and that's behind the tenements both on Hamilton Road and Muir Street. I would like just to kind of reassure the committee that we will be providing information and contact details throughout the project to local businesses, to the local communities and the public, both rail users and town centre users, and we'll be using sort of various means of communication just to make sure that that information is widely available. And we're very much working with ScotRail and Transport Scotland and SPT to ensure that the messages are communicated widely, but equally they're consistent messages and people know where to get that information from. There will be, as the report kind of flags up, a number of road closures, quite short-term road closures, as you would expect for this type of work. They will be carefully managed and advance notice will be provided and signage to support that, and that's to try and minimise obviously any impact on the town centre and for town centre users. Just in terms of timescale, both the station and Muir Street works are still anticipated to be complete during June 22, so there's no issues there at present. Just moving on in terms of the key focus of the report, which is the Orchard Farm roundabout project. So just looking at section 2.5 of the report. The Orchard Farm roundabout really comprises a junction on the A8 which links development sites both in the south and the north of the M8, and it's a really critical piece of infrastructure to open up those development opportunities. So the report does give you quite a lot of information on the Moss End International Rail Freight Park, which I think sort of supplements the report in terms of what's going to take place or what has permission at the Moss End site. And we have been, as the committee knows, we've been working with PD Stirling and ID Meeklam around the Moss End Rail Freight Park and how the roundabout supports that, and equally how that supports the sites to the north, and then preparing an outline business case to support that. In terms of City Deal, the actual scope of the project is actually a contribution towards that roundabout. The roundabout will be developed by the developer, it will be built by the developer, and that is subject to obviously the outline business case and the full business case approvals. So the outline business case very much is based on a funding agreement between the council and the developer, and that will establish the contractual and partnership arrangements around the grant and any kind of supporting obligations for that. I would like to stress, and I think it's really important to note, that the developer will be responsible for the delivery risks around this and any additional costs, so that our kind of grant contribution is kind of limited to what we're offering as part of that grant agreement. There is growing confidence in the rail sector, as you can imagine, and particularly with the rail park at Moss End. And I think given the sort of statutory and technical approvals that are now in place, we've started to build a lot of momentum around that project, and particularly with looking at the Orchard Farm roundabout. So to allow that momentum to be maintained and to maintain programme, as I said at the start of this, we are seeking approval from the committee to give the Chief Executive authority to submit the outline business case in June, and again, if needed, and out with the kind of committee cycle, the full business case as well. And that very much would allow, subject to those approvals, that would allow the roundabout construction to commence in autumn 22 and complete by early summer 23. So I kind of hope that gives you a kind of roundup of the kind of two key projects in the report, but I'm happy to take any questions on the other projects contained within the report.
Thank you, Lindsay, for an excellent summary. Going to invite any questions, but Councillor Damasio, you've beat me to it. Paul.
Hi there. I'll keep this fairly brief. Obviously, it's largely an update report, and delighted to see that everything is more or less, all projects seem to be going to plan, albeit I think the Derelict was a matter of weeks, I think, been held up. So yeah, delighted to see that all these projects are going to plan. So yeah, good update in that regard. In terms of the Orchard Farm roundabout and the proposal, again, given the election time scale and committee time scales, then obviously I've got no issues with that. The only caveat I would add is, you know, if the timing in terms of preparedness for submission and you know, the election / committee cycle, if it permits us to have a committee or bring that to committee, then obviously I would ask that we obviously do that. And as I say, with that, I would just ask that all councillors are kept informed.
Thank you for your comments, Paul. I'm sure that the officers will take the necessary action to expedite matters, given that you say there's a number of months to the next committee, but thank you anyway. Councillor Beveridge, Alan.
Thanks, convener. It's just well, to phrase this the last time as well, East Airdrie Link Road, I say it's March 22, which is grand. I take it by March the map will be released where this road's going to go to. And could you also sort of indicate when the actual roads will be getting started there? Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. Lindsay,
yes,
can you have a comment?
Yes, I can. So in terms of, it certainly is our intention to publish that preferred route, but we are dependent on carrying out this stage two consultation, and we do want to have that feedback into the preferred route, if you like. So we will be publishing it as soon as possible, and I can certainly make the commitment to come back to you, Councillor Beveridge, just with timelines and keep you up to date on where we are with that process.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I see no other questions in the chat bar, so I'm going to assume everybody's happy to approve the recommendations. Yes? Thank you. Lindsay, could I ask you to address item 5? Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Graham. So item 5 is a report that concentrates on the Ravenscraig access infrastructure, and it really seeks approval to award the contract for the West Coast Mainline crossing. Essentially, it's an implementation agreement with Network Rail. Just by way of a reminder to committee, so the West Coast Mainline crossing forms the first package of works for the Ravenscraig access infrastructure project. It's very much a critical piece of infrastructure, and it allows tranche of works, the next package of works to be delivered, and they're very much dependent on each other. Much of the kind of context of this has been reported to committee numerous times, so I'm not proposing to kind of go through that, but committee is aware that we've been working with Network Rail around the development of this scheme for some time, and really in terms of sort of summarising the report, because it is a lengthy report, and I think, you know, it needed to be lengthy to show committee the kind of process that we followed in terms of the contractual arrangements with Network Rail and the procurement strategy. But the next stage is to enter into this implementation agreement with Network Rail, where they will deliver a bridge infrastructure. And again, that agreement will establish both the contractual relationship and the partnering arrangements between North Lanarkshire and Network Rail. In terms of our relationship with Network Rail, it's very common, and in fact Network Rail's preference to deliver works of this nature, given the impact on the live railway, and Network Rail will own and maintain that structure in the future. So between North Lanarkshire and Network Rail, in terms of the agreed procurement route, we had to consider the nature of the works in terms of very much a specialised contractor was required, the value of the works, and the programme constraints. So the programme is very much tied to a planned railway closure in March 23, and also a sort of series of quite complex approvals, you know, one of which is today's approval, if you like. So based on that, North Lanarkshire and North Network Rail agreed to carry out a mini competition under one of their existing Network Rail frameworks. And following a kind of joint assessment by North Lanarkshire and Network Rail, Story Rail have been confirmed as the preferred contractor to carry out the works. So in terms of the agreement, it very much comprises kind of costs that comprise North Lanarkshire, not Network Rail costs, which are for the kind of project management and the contract administration, and obviously the construction costs. And the report details out the value of that and a breakdown of that. And looking at sort of timescales, and subject to the approval today from committee and the approval of the kind of final business case at chief execs, and that's actually taking place right now, and our sort of senior project manager is actually presenting the business case at the chief execs group probably right now. So we're hoping that gets approved, and obviously subject to both approvals, mobilisation would take place in March 22. Construction of the bridge would commence in May 22, and then the completion would be planned for June 23. And there isn't a lot of movement, as I kind of suggested, around the programme for that. We're very tied to this this rail closure, and carrying out the works within that defined period of time. So really, just to conclude, subject to getting the approvals, particularly the kind of final business case today, the costs would be met within the City Deal budget, and that would kind of cover the cost of that implementation agreement. So I'm happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Lindsay, for taking us through quite a tricky, complex subject. So thank you for that. Councillor Damasio, Paul.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay, for the report and that update. Obviously, the contract we're looking at here is of it's a huge value. But hopefully, by the same token, it's got not just huge financial value to North Lanarkshire, but look forward to seeing it progress. My question is, I'm delighted to see, obviously, that it's given the kind of uncertainty out there in the marketplace that it's came in on budget as well. But I'm just looking for a little bit more clarity from yourself. I know it's referred to in the paper, but in terms of the price stability and you know, the protections for the council. As I say, it's obviously a huge value we're agreeing today, but just looking for some comfort in terms of that, you know, going up for any reason, shall we say?
Yeah, it's Councillor Damasio. It's as you say, it's a huge value a kind of contract, a physical works contract, and the difficulty we had in terms of you know, stabilising the kind of figure within the Network Rail agreement is that Network Rail don't need this structure. You know, so while they'll own it and they'll maintain it, it's not something that they require or they are developing for their own benefit. It's very much part of the City Deal programme and for the benefit of, you know, unlocking the development potential at Ravenscraig. So the kind of position is that the kind of any cost increases will be, you know, met by North Lanarkshire Council, and within City Deal there is a contingency budget and there is optimum bias in there to kind of cover increased costs. And certainly you'll see in the kind of the breakdown of the cost there, there's, you know, council contingency held during the kind of construction period, if you like, to kind of cover some of those increased costs. And it really is just working with Network Rail to manage that process, and we will work very closely with Network Rail around managing costs and looking at mitigation and looking at kind of the broad spectrum of kind of measures that can be put in place to manage that kind of cost issue that you've raised there. But I think going back to your point about the fact that it has come in on budget, we were obviously hugely pleased that it did that, and certainly across the other City Deal projects, I'm very aware that projects have been coming in 40% over budget. So I think it really does show how careful and how considered that the tender documentation was put together and how the design has been put together in terms of getting a really solid price for that piece of infrastructure.
Paul, I hope that gives you some reassurance. Obviously, I think collectively we all share concerns about increased costs in projects of that magnitude. Colleagues, I don't see anybody else on the chat bar. Are we happy to approve the recommendations? Thank you. Moving on to item 6. Pamela or David, who's taking this?
Yeah, David's going to take this one.
David, thank you very much.
So this report provides an overview on the work that's been undertaken to secure external funding for regeneration projects across North Lanarkshire. So just moving on to the actual funding itself. So under 2.2, the first one is the UK Community Renewal Fund, which is basically as a precursor to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which is due to replace the European Social Fund for business support and employability. Going back to last summer, we had submitted a package for just under £3 million for 7 projects. 5 of these were approved, securing £2.44 million for North Lanarkshire. Details of the successful bids are included in section 2.2.2. I think it's quite important to highlight the tight deadlines on this. So all funding has to actually be spent by the end of June 2022. So we've already started to progress and get these projects up and running, so we can try and maximise spend as much as possible. Going on to 2.3, the Green Growth Accelerator, and again this was highlighted to committee under previous reports. Basically this is a Pathfinder programme that's put in place to support investment in infrastructure that will help meet the Scottish Government's targets towards net carbon zero. So again, we put in a bid for feasibility works, and we've secured up to £120,000 for design and feasibility works for a potential 10 million bid for Strathclyde Country Park. And this is in line with the master plan for the park, and it will include work as retrofit of the water sports centre for energy efficiency, a new water source heat pump with a potential district heating network connected into that, a solar carport with EV charging and LED lighting, new LED lighting throughout the park. Going on to 2.4, under the Heritage Lottery Fund. So again, we've been working in partnership with Scottish Canals and in line with the Kelvin Valley Action Plan, where we're looking at Craig Marlick Stables, which again has been identified as one of the key kind of action points within that action plan. We'd already secured £656,000 through the VDLF for the restoration and the redevelopment of those buildings for a new holiday accommodation to support the kind of tourism industry within that area. We have submitted an expression of interest to Heritage Lottery Fund, which has been approved, and we are looking for the full submission to be made in May for a further £900,000. Under 2.5, the Levelling Up Fund, which is a £4.8 billion programme across the UK for infrastructure projects, which will concentrate on town centres, transport or cultural activities. Due to the tight deadlines, we were only able to support one bid into the first round, which was for enabling works for Cumbernauld Town Centre. Unfortunately, that was unsuccessful, and we have had really good and positive feedback, however, back from the fund itself, who were quite keen for us to resubmit. The timing for that, for the exact same bid, probably isn't really possible, but we would be hoping to still submit a further bid for the Cumbernauld, Kilsyth and Kirkintilloch East constituency, again still focusing on enabling works within Cumbernauld Town Centre, which would complement the other work that we're actually doing right now and taking forward to support the town vision for Cumbernauld. And as previously highlighted within committee reports, we've already approved further bids for Airdrie Town Centre, for Summerlee and Courtbridge, and for Ravenscraig, which all four of these we would then hopefully be taking forward to the next round of bids, which is due to open in Easter, with a deadline for that in June. And we would then find out about those bids, whether they were successful or not, next winter, so probably October, November time. So just going on to 2.6, which is the Regeneration Capital Grant Fund. Again, this has been up and running since 2012, 2013, and we've been very successful in terms of securing funding, capital funding for this for place-based regeneration activity. And in fact, we have two projects right now that we're taking forward in terms of real-time music hub in Motherwell, and also the Spring Hill Community Hub within Shotts. We've also, as previously highlighted in earlier reports, recently been awarded a further £1.8 million for the regeneration of Greathurst Industrial Estate. I think what's also I'd be quite keen to highlight, which is not actually within the report, but quite recently we received a further £250,000 RCGF for real-time music hub, basically to meet an uplift in the actual costs of this project. So again, that's been quite very useful indeed. Going on to 2.7, Scotland's Love Local. This is a new fund. It's a revenue fund for local placemaking projects. It's an annual fund. Again, we put in a number of bids. We were successful in 6 bids, totaling £85,000. And again, those successful bids are outlined within the report. 2.8, again, which is a new fund, or relatively new fund, which is the Vacant and Derelict Land Investment Programme. So this is a challenge fund, which right now is at £5 million a year, and is open up to all local authorities within Scotland. Due to the kind of deadlines in the first round, we weren't able to finalise any stage 2 bids going in. However, we have submitted 2 stage 1 bids for Ravenscraig Active Travel Phase 2 and for Glen Manor in Green Space project. They were submitted in September. Both stage 1 bids were approved, and stage 2 bids for those are due to be submitted on the 18th of February. Under 2.9, it's the Vacant and Derelict Land Fund. Again, we have received this ring-fence capital funding since 2004, subject to the submission of a local submission and approval of a local delivery plan outlining the works we're looking to take forward. Again, there's very strict criteria about what we can spend this fund on, not least the sites that are actually eligible have to be on the register for at least 15 years. So again, we've pulled together potentially 3 projects we're looking to take forward within the next local delivery plan. And these are really based around kind of employability, business development, job creation and investment opportunity for North Lanarkshire. Those would be Ravenscraig at the start of the kind of Ravenscraig Business Park, so will be the first plot on that. And to complement that, we'd also be looking for funding for looking at our renewable feasibility works and to see how we can try and make them net carbon zero and energy efficient. And then the last one there would be the final phase of Gartcosh. So phase one is now actually complete. So we've now secured over £5 million investment following initial VDLF works on that, and 60,000 square foot of new industrial space has now been complete there. Hopefully we'll be looking to start another 80,000 square foot on phase two towards the end of this calendar year. And again, this funding here would just start doing the enabling works and infrastructure works for the final phase up at Gartcosh. So that's all the kind of funds that we're working on right now. Recommendations would be to endorse the action being undertaken to secure the external funding, would be to approve the submission of the second bid for the Cumbernauld, Kilsyth and Kirkintilloch East. And again, we've already secured from yourselves the approval for the other three bids to go into round two. And then last but not least would be the approval of the submission, the 2022-23 local delivery plan, Reagan and Derelict land programme. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you, David. An excellent summary of all the salient points there, and I must say you've got my admiration for keeping on top of all these grant schemes. There's certainly a plethora of them. There's more grant schemes in certain parties and certain institutions. I'm not saying any more than that at this juncture. However, in saying that, any questions, colleagues? Yes, I noticed there's some in the chat bar. Now, Councillor McPeak, Michael.
Thanks, Convener. Again, a very, very good report, and all parts of North Lanarkshire have got something here. I'd draw your attention, Chair, to 2.82, bullet point 2 there. High quality green space, provide high quality green space adjacent to Glenmire Primary School in Moodiesburn. This is absolutely fantastic news. I know we're only going into the second bid phase here, but this is a great addition to a very, very well, a community that really needs some investment into it. So I really welcome that. And again, then can I point you to 2.95, 2.9.5. Again, I welcome the further £570,000 investment into the Gartcosh retail industrial park there. Again, fantastic news for our area. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Michael, for your positive comments. Councillor DiMartio, Paul.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, David, for the detailed report. Once again, thank all our officers for their ongoing hard work on all of these bids and projects. Glad to see that a lot of bids are coming to fruition, and we've got more in the pipeline, which fingers crossed we get across the line. Obviously. Just to say, obviously, it goes without saying it's important that we're investing in our communities and delivering on employability. Obviously welcome lastly the tens of millions of funding which is getting pumped into North Lanarkshire, and delighted to see these projects getting off the ground. And thank you, and keep it up.
Thank you, Paul, for your comments. As Councillor Castle and myself said a number of times to speaking to the staff, is that we're amazed that they keep on top of all these different grant schemes. There's a plethora of them, to say the least. Councillor Beveridge, Alan.
Thanks, Convener. As has been said many times, staff will do a good job. Anyway, see the 10th under 271. Police Scotland and promoting community safety around Croy Hill Anti-9 route. David, it's just what is that entailed? Could you be a bit more specific what that is for, Ultron? Thanks.
I believe it's actually the acquisition of quad bikes to allow them to actually patrol the Anti-9 route.
Great, thanks. Thought that. Anyway, myself and Councillor Burgess have met officers and senior police officers and officers for the council. This isn't a problem. That's only. I didn't even know that was an issue in Croy Hill, but Councillor Burgess is a problem in his area, and it's a problem in my area as well regarding the misuse of quad bikes and off-roaders and causing damage. I take it these quad bikes will not be for specific, only for that area. And I've got a meeting tomorrow actually with the officer in charge of the police locally regarding this. I take it these quad bikes will be for use throughout North Lanarkshire. Thanks.
David?
I couldn't answer that. Again, these bids were actually submitted directly by the applicant itself. So it was just, the council has to endorse bids that go forward. As far as I'm aware, they are just restricted to...
Okay, can I ask you who submitted that, sir? Was that come from the police or our officers? Because I've spoke to officers regarding this issue in my area and indeed Councillor Burgess's area. Thanks.
Police Scotland made the submission. We would just endorse it.
Right, and that, okay, that's fine. Thank you for that.
Thank you. No other questions, colleagues? No, right. Are you happy to improve the recommendations? Yes. Thank you. I mean, it is a success story. We are doing very positive things, and as I said before, we are offering a new deal to all our communities across a magnitude of areas. So well done to everyone. Could I ask item 7, please? Yvonne, I believe you'll be taking through the points here.
Thank you, Convener. So the report is seeking approval for the new North Lanarkshire Tourism Strategy and Action Plan for the period 2022 through to 2026. The strategy is replacing the former Pan Lanarkshire Area Tourism Action Plan, which was in place up to 2020. So the strategy is capturing our current service provision and seeking to support the ongoing recovery and future growth of the tourism and leisure sector, which has been adversely or severely impacted through the pandemic. The strategy is fully aligned with Scotland's National Tourism Strategy, Scotland Outlook 2030, and we've developed the strategy in conjunction with partners and Visit Scotland. So in 2.2 of the report, the shared vision of the strategy is by 2026, North Lanarkshire will be a sustainable, resilient tourist destination, offering a range of authentic and memorable experiences which provide value for money and are accessible for all. And we're underpinning that with 3 priority themes, looking at how we support businesses, looking at the people and skills required, and how we tie in the place-based elements linked to the Council's ambitions and current plans. So the strategy and action plan are going to be overseen by a steering group, which is made up of relevant council services. So enterprise, education, employability, our country parks team, active creative communities, communications, planning and roads, and the growth team, and also the communities team. And that's supported with Visit Scotland and Business Gateway, with ongoing consultation with the sector and other key stakeholders. So we're seeking approval of the strategy and action plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Colleagues, does anyone have any questions? Councillor McPake.
Chair, again, it's a really good report. The part I'm going to focus on is where it mentions the Seven Lochs Wetlands Trust, the wetlands, and obviously we're working together with them as a member of it, and obviously a resident of Glenboig. I mean, Seven Lochs has got several hubs, and I don't think we're promoting it enough in this forum of the report so far. We should be focusing not only on Drumpellier and the other parts, but also the outward hubs that like Frankfield Loch. Well, it's not a hub, but Frankfield Loch's part of the Seven Lochs, and promoting the Glenboig side of it, because we want tourists as well. So it's not a negative, it's not a criticism, but I think we could do a wee bit more to promote the Seven Lochs in this. So I'd like to get your views on that, please.
Thank you. Your points are noted. Yvonne, any comments at this juncture, or you want the time to consider and come back?
Thank you, Councillor McPake. We've got a meeting of the steering group next.
You seem to be frozen, Yvonne. Are we all up?
Did I get lost there? Sorry, I just had lots of circles on my screen.
Along with several others, but you're back on the line now.
Sorry, Councillor McPake, I don't know how much you heard there, but we've got our steering group meeting, I think either next week or the week after, so I'll certainly take that point back to the steering group for you and I'll feedback after that.
Thank you very much, Yvonne. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Councillor Amasio, Paul.
Thanks, Convener, and thanks for the report, Yvonne. Obviously, it's a worthwhile report. Obviously, something that, given we've changed the arrangements that we had previously with South Lanarkshire Council, I'm sure the reason we're just going ahead with this now, 2 years later, is the big black cloud that's been COVID. First of all, could you just remind us why we we took the decision to go it alone, so to speak, in that regard. Although I'm sure we'll, as stated in the report, we'll work with South Lanarkshire, you know, when appropriate, and the benefits to the council in doing that. And I had another question. Yeah, in terms of the sector affected and consultation, are you able to give us any, you know, advisors what kind of consultation we've had and will have ongoing with the, you know, the sectors affected by tourism or dependent on tourism? Thanks.
Yvonne, you in a position to answer? Yes.
Yep, and I think with the strategies, South Lanarkshire Council, we're certainly keen to pursue a strategy related to South Lanarkshire. But what we were very, very keen on is to retain the Visit Lanarkshire brand. That brand is well established, as we all know, and we will continue with that as a brand. So we will not lose the Visit Lanarkshire website or the promotional activity that happens, because there's economies of scale working together on that sort of outward marketing approach for Visit Lanarkshire. Am I still here?
You're still here very much, so we lost you temporarily.
And certainly in terms of the consultation with the sector, we did a survey of the sector, and that was carried out at a Plan Lanarkshire level as well. So I can certainly get the results of that. The results were quite different between North and South, which is quite interesting, but we did a survey of the sector, and we've had various conversations with the sector, and we'll continue to do so throughout the development of the plan as we move forward, and we'll be reporting on that.
Will that give you some assurance, Paul?
Yeah, that'd be great, Yvonne. Thank you for that. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Lennon, Greg.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just picking up on Councillor McPeak's points in relation to the 7 locks. I agree, I don't think the 7 locks is promoted enough. However, what I would highlight is the 7 locks was originally presented with 16-kilometre urban park. Now, I'm aware that that may have been reduced, but I'm going to focus on the Gartcosh end, because Councillor McPeak's focused on the Glenboig end. And within that, we were promised a walkway around the lock. We were promised observation towers and a visitor centre, and nothing's ever materialised, Chair. So it's to see if the officer could perhaps shed some light in relation to that. If we are going to look at this, then perhaps Gartcosh is incorporated into these plans.
Greg, thank you. Yvonne, can you comment that, or will you be able to speak to Councillor Lennon out with this arena?
I can't comment on that, but I can certainly get a response from the officers responsible and feed that back to Councillor Lennon if that's acceptable, and raise it at the steering group next week.
Greg, I take it you're happy with that? Yeah, thank you. Councillor McGowan, Agnes.
I think there's a very good resource in Motherboard that is not mentioned at all in this report, and we have been discussing it on the LOIP, on the environmental subgroup of the LOIP for the community boards, and that is Barnshoch Nature Reserve, the RSP Nature Reserve. Now, I think that's an amazing resource for Motherwell, and also attracts a lot of visitors from all over Scotland. It's one of them, I think, the most useful wetlands RSPB reserves in Scotland. And Alison Guthrie of the RSPB is on the LOIP. She came on as a member of that, and I hope things might be progressing. She was going to speak to some of the officers. I haven't heard. I think we've got a meeting next week. I'm not sure the date's 16th or something, but I've got it in my diary. But I would like to see the RSPB Nature Reserve Barnshoch being more high profile in Motherwell, because it's very near to Strathclyde Park. Strathclyde Park is being developed, and it's very easy to get from Strathclyde Park right into the RSP Nature Reserve or Bird Sanctuary. So I would like to see it being given, more of a profile in Motherwell, because I think it's a very useful facility.
Okay, I mean, I will say briefly before inviting Vaughan, I've been round it myself a couple of times, Agnes. I ventured over for sunny Common Hall and to sunny Motherwell, and it was a pleasure walking round it. And I think it was my friend Councillor Kelly mentioned it to me a couple of times, and it's a really wonderful facility. Vaughan, can you give some assurance, or did you be able to go back to Councillor McGowan with this arena?
No, thank you, Councillor McGowan, and I will take that back to the steering group as well. And I think what it highlights, both of the Seven Lochs and the RSP Reserve, we have so many good natural assets and other assets in North Lanarkshire. And I think what when we've tried to summarise the strategy, we've probably not done justice to the full area. So I will take that back to the steering group, because there are so many positives that we need to promote that we've got in our area that are of interest to visitors. So I'll certainly feed that back. So thank you.
You okay, Agnes, with that answer?
Yes, that's great, Alan. Thank you very much. Thank you, Vaughan.
You're very welcome. Councillor Beveridge, Alan.
Thanks, Kavina. Just to fire it, I know Drumpellier Park's fantastic, nice loch. Strathclyde Park, lovely loch. We've got a loch in the outskirts of Airdrie, Hill End Reservoir, which attracts 10,000 members are fishing up there. Nobody can fish in Strathclyde Park for obvious reasons. Scottish Canals and Hill End Reservoir are spending hundreds of thousands of pounds doing up the dams up there. The cycle path, which is the main cycle path from Glasgow to Edinburgh, runs by there. Yvonne, this is a resource which I've spoken about in the past, which we would no need to spend a lot of money on, which hundreds of people are going up there day in, day out, enjoying that. And I just don't for the life of me understand why that's not included in this as well. Thanks.
Alan, Vaughan?
No, thank you again, Councillor Beveridge, for the feedback. And I think, you know, I'll take that back to the strategy group and, you know, have a look at that overall. Thank you.
Thanks very much. I know it's not in Motherwell and Gitcosh, but it's vitally important for this area. Thanks.
It's all part of the Republic of North Lanarkshire, Alan, so it's worthy of merit, worthy of inclusion. Colleagues, I don't see any other comments on the board, so I'm going to assume everybody's happy to accept the endorsed recommendation. Thank you. Item 8, please. Can I ask you again?
Thank you, Councillor Graham. So this report seeking approval for the North Lanarkshire Social Enterprise Framework and Action Plan. Again, we're looking for this to cover the period from 2022 through to 26. The framework's been developed by a strategy group that consists of a partnership of Voluntary Action North Lanarkshire, North Lanarkshire Social Enterprise Network, Social Enterprise Network Scotland, the Council through our Enterprise Procurement and Communities teams, Business Gateway Lanarkshire and Lanarkshire Enterprise Services Limited. So the Framework and Action Plan has been informed by an in-depth review of key regional and national policy documents and a series of workshops with the members of the strategy group. That's been complemented by a sector survey that we undertook and discussions with the North Lanarkshire Community Solutions Consortia. So in section 2.1, the vision is that we have a competitive and dynamic social enterprise sector in North Lanarkshire, which supports inclusive and green growth, delivering innovative solutions and proactive responses to local needs and to maximise local public and private procurement opportunities. And underpinning the strategy on section 2.2, we highlight the shared ambition for social enterprises and our three themes which are aligned to Scotland's social enterprise strategy to stimulate the sector, to develop stronger organisations and to support businesses to realise market opportunities. And we're seeking approval for the Framework and Action Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for the summary of key points in it. An interesting document, an interesting read, and all the key players seem to be at the table as far as I can see. Colleagues, does anyone have any questions? Councillor Brand McVeigh. Heather.
And again, PM's come up and I've no idea why. Anyway, thanks, Yvonne. I found this report really important and detailed, and I welcome it. I think it's vital that we've got a diverse economy in North Lanarkshire, and I think the social enterprise sector has been supported, tapped into and under nurtured, I think, going forward. And I see this as a really positive step forward because so many people work in this sector either in a voluntary capacity or in a paid way, and they're making such a difference across our communities and across the country. So I really welcome it and I support the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind and positive words. Councillor Damasio, Paul.
Thank you, Convener, and thanks again, Yvonne. You know, as referred to by Councillor Brandon McVeigh, you know, it's a sector that probably in light of coronavirus in the last couple of years, there's more of a light being shone on that sector, and I'm welcome the report and you know the focus on the centre. I particularly enjoyed kind of looking at reading through the case studies, and yeah, I welcome the work that we're doing in this sector, and it's important that we support the sector. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Paul, for your kind comments again. I see no further comments in the chat bar, so are we happy to endorse approve the recommendation? Yes. Thank you. Item 9, my colleague Councillor Carson will take this item and I'll vacate the chair for this. Olivia.
Just give me a moment, Convener. I'll just need to place yourself and Councillor Cameron in the lobby.
Always a pleasure to get in the lobby.
Just bear with me.
No worries, Andrew.
Okay, that's it. Good to go, Councillor Carson.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrew. Yvonne, I think you're taking us through item 9 as well.
Thank you, Councillor Carson. So the purpose of the report, the business grant report, is twofold. The first element is to seek approval for a new business startup grant to support local enterprises to start up, grow and create employment opportunities. And the second is to make changes to the criteria for the Council's Back to Business Fund. So in relation to the startup grant, North Lanarkshire's business startup rate has improved considerably, but we still lag behind Glasgow City Region and the Scottish averages per head of population, despite huge strong performance in creating startups. So the fund we're proposing is a pilot fund of £350,000 from March 2022 through to 2023 on a first come first served basis. And the two key aims of the fund are to accelerate the number of businesses in North Lanarkshire, new businesses, sorry, in North Lanarkshire, and to improve business sustainability and to encourage business growth. So in order to deliver the fund, we're proposing that it's done in 2 instalments. So a first instalment of between £1,000 and £2,500 to help at the launch of the business with a view to supporting 100 businesses. And the second element of the fund following 6 months to provide additional support to support survivability of those businesses. And in addition, the second payment allows us the opportunity to re-engage with those startups and ensure they're getting the follow-on support that they need to survive and create opportunities moving forward. So we're planning on working with our Business Gateway Lanarkshire provider to deliver the grant in conjunction with ourselves, and in section 2.14 to 2.18 of the report, it outlines the processes we're planning to put in place to do that. In relation to the Back to Business Fund, we're proposing some changes to that fund. Committee will recall that the grants were in place up to £2,500 to support income diversification, e-commerce platforms, adaptation of premises and other areas to help businesses get back to business following the pandemic. We used funding from the Scottish Government's discretionary fund the Council had received. We had 228,000 available to deliver the fund, and at the moment we've got approximately 151,000 remaining to commit towards the Back to Business Fund. So what we're doing is seeking approval to extend the criteria to support businesses who previously received funding through the Strategic Framework Business Fund and also businesses that are home-based, and the remaining criteria will be as approved by committee in 2.21. And these funds are ring-fenced and we'll be using them for the purposes stated. Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne. I think it's a great report and a really good opportunity to promote business in North Lanarkshire. Councillor Damasio.
Thank you once again, everyone. Busy afternoon for you. Yeah, totally, you know, in support of the proposals, and delighted to see that we're doing our utmost in North Lanarkshire, you know, to help start-up businesses get off the ground and get over, you know, that hurdle, you know, with the 6-month time frame mentioned for the second phase of the funding. So, you know, delighted that we're seeking to help startups. Obviously, particularly given what's happened in the last couple of years with the coronavirus, it's imperative we do everything we can to help grow our you know, the economy, businesses and in relation to employability, you know. So yeah, delighted to see that fund, and I'm content as well with the changes to the Back to Business fund. So yeah, I just thank officers again for their work in this area. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Damasio. Councillor Beveridge.
I'm getting my Topsworth in there as well, the back of Paul. As Yvonne knows, I've been conversed with many times on this. The complexity of the business grant and the criteria, you need to be a Philadelphia lawyer to work this out, who gets it, who doesn't get it. Thankfully, our officers are better than Philadelphia lawyers with working this out. And on behalf of the many times I've contacted you and your department, Yvonne, thank you very much. You're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Beveridge, and I think thanks from the whole committee for Yvonne's team, because they do tremendous work, and all the officers on this call and all the teams. Perfect. I don't see any more comments or questions, so are we happy to approve the report? Yes, I'm seeing thumbs up, so that's great. Thank you. We'll be moving on, but Andrew, can you bring them back? You're bringing them back already.
That should be the convener back in now.
Thanks, Andrew. Alan, you're on mute, but we're on to agenda item 10.
Unmuted, so to speak. Item 10, colleagues. Paul, I believe you're taking us through the salient points.
Okay, thanks, convener, and nice to see everyone this afternoon. So this report on parental employment support provides the committee with information on a specific employability project that overlaps and complements the council's tackling child poverty strategy. We usually don't go into this kind of detail in specific projects to committee, but we are conscious that this project has been mentioned in a series of reports over the last 2 years, but never been really detailed to you. And also because it's at the edge of employability, where it overlaps into physical and mental health support, really, this project, and it demonstrates not only the economic impact of employment support, but also the health and well-being benefits of employment support to a group of people who are on a low income and also facing the challenge of being parents in certain categories. Anyway, I'll cut to the chase. So the report gives information on the implementation over the last 18 months of this project, and it also details the measures we think we should take to make it more effective over the next year, on the assumption that we're going to get more external funding to deliver this, and we're pretty confident we are. The project was aimed at 2 groups of parents, those unemployed and those employed but on a low income. And from 2.1 to 2.13, there's quite a lot of information in there about how it was delivered and the kind of supports that were involved. In summary, though, the project engaged with 203 parents. 42 unemployed parents went into work, 3 became self-employed, which I suppose helps the previous report in terms of, we know there's the capacity there in North Lanarkshire for people to start their own business. They just need the help. And 31 people who were already employed when they engaged with the project moved into either getting better hours or more income from their job. So it also, in that narrative, it highlights some of the valuable lessons we learned and the range of challenges that some parents actually face when you know, it's not just about saying here's a job, you start on Monday. There's all sorts of other mental and physical health type issues that need addressed before you can get to that point. At 2.14, finally, the report lists the areas that the team want to develop next year to enhance the project, to make it better, to widen the support, and we think we want to engage, well, they're telling me we need to engage more third sector organisations. We already did some work with One Parent Family Scotland, but we see those organisations as playing a key role in helping bring the parents on low income who we want to support to either make more money in their job or get into work. So that's it. I suppose that for me, it's been an example of where practical employment support that is wrapped around properly people has got an economic impact, but it also means that we move parents and children out of poverty at the same time. Thanks.
Paul, thank you for that. Colleagues, does anyone else have any questions apart from my friend Councillor Brian McVeigh? I see Paul's come on. Right, okay, I'll deal with these two first of all. Councillor Brian McVeigh, Heather.
Thanks very much, convener. What a wonderful report to read. 203 families have had their income change, potentially their aspirations increased and indeed fulfilled. We know that when we lift the aspirations through education and employment of parents, in particular mothers, that the aspirations and the life chances and choices of children increase too. So this is transformative, not only in for the parents who are engaging in here, but for future generations too. And I think understanding that whole person approach about supporting people, poverty doesn't just happen to one area of your life, it happens to all of your life. It affects every bit of your life. And I think recognising the challenges that specific people have in their poverty experience, recognising the differences in providing support to where areas are vulnerable, whether it be in health and wellbeing or in childcare or in otherwise, that it's, whether it be culturally, ethically or otherwise, it's immensely important. This is hugely important, and I encourage the council to continue to shine a light and do positive efforts in this, because this is raising families out of poverty, and poverty is the scourge of the society we live in. So this is truly transformative. So thanks for all the efforts on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather, for your very positive comments. Much appreciated, and I'm sure the team take that as well. Councillor Damasio, Paul.
Just really, endorse Heather's comments, and just to once again thank Paul and his team for all his hard work in this area. Tackling poverty, and lifting people, lifting people into employment and out of poverty. It's vital. It's important work. I don't really need to add to Heather's comments any further, but I'd just like to thank Paul and his team for everything they're doing, and thank them and ask them to continue the good work.
Thank you very much for your comments, Paul. Appreciated. I mean, I'm sure on behalf of Councillor Carson myself, we would echo very much those comments made with the two previous contributors. And I mean, obviously, Paul and the team do a wonderful job in improving people's life chances. And given what's the announcements today with the energy cap, and given the announcement today with the interest rates rise, all these things will impact on the people of quality's life. Now, we're giving people hope, we're giving people the opportunity. As I said numerous times, this is a new deal for people. Thank you. Any other comments, colleagues? We're happy to accept the recommendation. Thank you very much. Can we go on to item 11? It's only just for noting. However, Councillor Kelly, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to know that it's not about this item. If you just give me a minute, I just wanted to pay tribute to yourself. I know you're retiring from local government, from public service over many years, and just to thank you for your very, very significant contribution to residents in North Lanarkshire. You've done a huge amount of work in your convenership through housing, regeneration, enterprise and growth. You've driven an ambitious agenda we have to change people's lives, to make people's lives better, to bring investment and opportunity into North Lanarkshire. You've been at the heart of that. I know from all the businesses and organisations you've dealt with, the difference you've made, and you've led a fantastic team, and both yourself and Councillor Carson, who's also leaving local government, have done a phenomenal job. And it's just to put on record the gratitude I have, and I'm sure many other members have, for the contributions you've made. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your kind words. The check's in the post.
Here.
Words. And thank you very much for that. I couldn't have summarised it better. The last 10 years, and certainly the last 3.5 years has been a very productive journey in this committee. And I'd like to thank everybody for playing their part We have worked well. We have got on with things. We are making a difference. We are, and I keep repeating this, you are bringing a new deal to people and making a difference in their lives, a very positive difference. So thank you very, very much for everything. And if anybody's got any further comments before Councillor Carson and Graham sign off, the arena is yours, as I say. Thank you. And so I'll just leave you the words of President Barack, the late President, great President Barack Obama. There's future rewards for those who press on, and we will certainly press on with these endeavours. Thank you very much. Have a good day and take care.
Thanks, Chair. Well done. Thank you.